Hi everyone, so if you have slow keys on your Grand Feel keyboard, the most likely problem is that you've got excessive friction between the PTFE pad on the end of the key and the capstan of the hammer. So previously I've advised adding some lubrication in the form of WD-40 to the end of the key if just simple cleaning doesn't work. But I found in the long term that kind of wears off. It might even make the key more sticky. The solution is to add a new layer of PTFE over the top using double-sided tape, and this works surprisingly well and it's reversible. So whether you're just trying to fix a single key or you're trying to regulate the whole keyboard, you're probably going to want some way of measuring how fast your key was originally. Now you can do this by looking at the MIDI velocities, which are triggered by pressing the note. First you need a standard weight to put on the end of the keys. You can do this from a pile of coins stuck together with blue tack. Here I used some coins plus a weight that I got from a pair of scales. You need some way of measuring the MIDI velocity. I did it with Piano Tech because in the MIDI screen of the options you can see the actual note, the values of the note on events. And obviously you're going to want to record all those values in some way, so I did it in Excel. So to fix the problem keys, the first thing you have to do is to remove the screws on the back of the piano, side of the top, remove the keyboard cover and the name bar so you have access to the keys. Then you need to check whether the hammers are hanging at the correct height, because if the hammers are too high, for example, then that will cause the note to sound prematurely when the key hasn't been pressed down far enough, so you'll get a lower velocity reading. So you can adjust the hammers if they are hanging at the incorrect height by turning the capstan clockwise or anti-clockwise, depending on whether you want to lengthen or shorten the height at which the hammer hangs. Here you can see the keys will lift out easily, and they've got a piece of PTFE on the end where they contact the capstan of the hammer. Things that I've tried which didn't work: WD-40 works temporarily but just wears off and kind of gets sticky. PTFE powder I heard recommended, doesn't work at all. Grease on the hammers, not needed. So one thing that might be a problem is you have grease or dirt on the PTFE itself, so you can clean this using an alcohol swab. Soapy water might work as well, I don't know, but I had these alcohol swabs I ordered and they're brilliant. If that doesn't work, just a simple clean, then you'll probably need to replace the PTFE. So you can get sheets of PTFE from eBay. I got 0.25mm and 0.5mm. And here's the double-sided tape I used. It was Unibond General Purpose Permanent, which works great. I don't know if other brands would work as well or not. So in my case I found that one of the sides of the PTFE was slightly rougher than the other, so I stuck a strip of the tape to the rougher side and then cut out a rough square and trimmed it to the right size by comparing with the existing PTFE on the key tip. And if your PTFE has a grain to it, which you might just be able to about see on this sample that I have, then make sure the grain runs parallel to the direction of movement. And this picture shows how you don't want to do it. Here I cut the PTFE too small and the grain's running across the key, so this application didn't work very well. But because it's just stuck over the existing PTFE, it's easy enough to just peel it off. Then we just need to adjust the capstan of the hammer to take account of the extra thickness of the PTFE. In my case I found just a couple of quarter turns clockwise did the trick. And finally just retest the velocity to check that the problem is fixed. Now repeat for all the other keys that you want to fix, reassemble the piano and job done.